The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet, with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, and also on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you may comment on my comments, and you don't even have to agree with the author without fear of retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we are syndicated coast to coast across the United States of America into 12 million additional households. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. I am so pleased that today our special guest is former New York Mayor Ed Koch, the mayor, and he is still mayor. Once a mayor of New York, always a mayor of New York. He was elected in 1977, was very well known as a populist mayor. He would walk the streets of New York and randomly walk up to people and ask them, how am I doing? And that's how he would get instant feedback about the job that he was doing for his constituents. He has a new book out, The Koch Papers, My Fight Against Anti-Semitism. So we've invited the mayor to join us here on News Talk Online on Paltalk.com to talk about anti-Semitism in this very volatile world, as well as politics. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions for the mayor. So without further ado, Mayor Koch, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it is our pleasure to have you here. I don't know if you would never know this or you would never remember this, but when I was a reporter for CBS Radio in Detroit, some police chief there, a guy named Bill Hart, who was later indicted and convicted, made terrible aspersions about your administration and the crime rate in New York City, saying that New York was not reporting all of its crime. So I picked up the phone to get a comment from the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information at the police department, and I said, hey, on my deadline, could you have somebody call me back with a statement, a response? And about 30 or 40 minutes later, the phone rings, and it was some lieutenant at the police department calling and said to me, Mr. Baumgarten? I said, yes. One moment for Mayor Koch. And they get the mayor of New York to respond. I mean,
sure.
What mayor of New York City would do something like that?
Only Crazy Eddie.
Only Crazy Eddie, no question about it. You know, I mentioned in my introduction to you, Mayor, that you are a populist kind of a guy. You always walked up to people. I know that Rudy Giuliani was not like that. He
was a mean, miserable guy.
A mean, miserable guy, especially to people who didn't vote for him or didn't agree with him. He never even went up to Harlem once during the time that he was mayor of New York.
That is true. That is why he didn't go very far in the Republican primary.
Well, what about the current mayor? He's a billionaire, I guess, and he rides the subway to work. I guess he's trying to take a page out of the Koch book.
$1 billion. He's got $15 billion. He's been a brilliant mayor. Some would call him a technocrat because he really doesn't have a political ideology that you can be sure about. He's been a Democrat, a Republican. He's now an independent, but he has been a brilliant mayor.
Speaking about people whose partisanship sometimes comes into question, there's no doubt that you are a lifelong Democrat. You were elected to Congress as a Democrat. But one of the things maybe some of the party leaders found frustrating about you, but I always found endearing, is the fact that you would support an individual for office based on his or her abilities, the person you thought was best for the job.
Party lines. I'm proud of it, and I've never had a problem as a result of doing that. I am a Democrat because I believe that the Democratic philosophy is better than the Republican philosophy. Democrats believe if you need a helping hand, we will help you. Republicans believe if I did it on my own, you're going to have to do it on your own.
And but you did support D'Amato. In fact, you and D'Amato were buddies, pretty good friends at one time.
I have no regrets.
You supported Bush.
I helped re-elect him when he ran for his second term. And when I did, I said I don't agree with the president on a single domestic issue, but I do agree with him that the number one issue facing the world is Islamic terrorism, and he is one of the few leaders, Tony Blair being the other, who recognized that danger, and that is why I supported him. I have no regrets.
Guest is former New York Mayor Ed Koch. We're going to get to your calls in just a moment, so get them ready, and when we introduce you, be prepared to ask the mayor a question forthrightly. How do you assess the Lieberman phenomenon? The party seemed to have abandoned him, and then he went independent.
Well, I told Joe Lieberman, who is a very good friend of mine, I just happened to have seen him this week at a luncheon, don't ever forgive those dogs who didn't support you after you lost the primary. There is no such thing as you must support the winner of the primary. If you believe that for whatever reasons the loser in a fluke lost and is still the best, and there was no question that Joe Lieberman was far and away the better of the two candidates, and he won, and I supported him. I took him down to Grand Central where the commuters got on the trains at 5 o'clock to go back to Connecticut.
Well, there you go. And you know, I happen to like Joe Lieberman as well. I think he's a fine individual and a great public servant. Your book is about anti-Semitism, and I know probably a lot of people are going to want to ask you a lot of questions, Mayor Koch,
Sure,
about politics, but I don't want to lose an opportunity right from the start to talk about anti-Semitism. The book is called The Koch Papers, My Fight Against Anti-Semitism. I think a lot of people might not know you're a very prolific author. You've written a number of books, most of them fictional.
17 books.
17 books. And delightful books. The mysteries, especially, I find very enjoyable to read.
Thank
you know, my father is 86 years of age. He was part of the army that liberated France, and he says that the level of anti-Semitism today is greater than it was leading to the Holocaust. Would you agree with him?
He's right, but not in the United States. In Europe, in Great Britain and France and elsewhere in Europe, anti-Semitism is on the rise, and it is, in my judgment, not less than it was in the late 30s, just before World War II. We're living in the golden age in the United States. Of course, there are individual anti-Semites,